The idea of Freddy Krueger is genuinely terrifying. You can't fall asleep, or the dream demon could hurt you, or even worse. So how did something that got done so right in 1984 get done so wrong nearly 30 years later? I normally tell people to go check out a movie before watching my videos, but I can't in good conscience recommend this movie to anyone. So before I start talking about every horrible thing in this movie, I do want to tell you what I did like.
We got 6 more minutes to play.
Jackie Earle Haley definitely gives it his all, and he really has big boots to fill off the performances of Robert Englund. He definitely gives off the creepy Freddy vibe that the movie wants to portray so badly. He played what he was given really well, even if what he was given was basically character assassination. Freddy isn't supposed to just feel like a slasher that shows up whenever. He's a looming presence for when you inevitably fall asleep. That is not lost from the performance of the character, just from the writing. And there's some other good performances too. Kyle Gallner made Quentin a really memorable character through his great acting. Rooney Mara also plays what she's given pretty well, even if again, it is a horrible portrayal of the original Nancy. The cinematography is pretty polished. It's not special by any means, but a lot of bad horror movies are also a chore to look at. Especially the opening scene specifically really jumps out to me, with some good lighting that creates immediate tension, even if it's never brought back after this. The idea of microsleeps is pretty creative, because otherwise all of the sleeping scenes are super predictable and boring, especially compared to the original. And the last good thing I'll say is the final scene is pretty fun, and it's the only thing in the entire movie that outdoes the original, but it probably would have been impossible to make it worse. However, a lot of good things the movie does eventually becomes a deterrent. For example, the vibe focuses on being overly polished, and even the opening credits is foreboding of this. They have some stylization that is very fitting and fun, and it just gets covered up by clean text being put over it. This is like when a private equity buys a company and drains all the personality from it, which is also how I would describe the entire movie. The movie just gets rid of all of the charm of the original. And because the tone is off, the writing has to do a lot of lifting, which it absolutely does not do. The main protagonist and antagonist are shells of their former selves, and it doesn't even feel like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. But worst of all, it's just boring. I'll give some examples of how bad the writing is for a lot of the film.
So you ever get tired of working here every weekend?
Do you ever get tired of coming here every weekend?
It's a high school job, dude. Who wrote this?
Come on, sweetie. It's over.
This is just a funny thing to say to someone who is grieving their friend. Like, okay, honey, funeral literally just ended. Time to go. Also, Nancy is falling asleep at the funeral. Like, yes, a very normal thing to do in this situation. On top of this, until he dies, Jesse is just a miserable character every time he's on screen.
Do you have any idea what that means?
No. I don't.
All of his lines are like he was written in before everyone else's, because he's just out of place and angsty.
What the hell are you doing here?
They didn't let me in.
It is a genuine relief when his character dies. The plot of the movie is very reminiscent of something like Dead Silence, and I'm not saying that in a good way. Nancy is written as a passive investigator instead of how she was in the original, where before she was actively trying to stop Freddy, but here she's trying to figure out the mystery, and it really affects the pacing. It felt like everything was just, okay, it's time to do this, making nothing meaningful, just going through the motions and taking away or adding things with seemingly no reason, which is frustrating because the good premise was already there, they just butchered it.
You're my little Nancy.
Especially because in this movie, Freddy is a child predator, but Nancy and Quentin just don't believe this for some reason. The parents didn't see any of the acts, but they found that Nancy had been scratched badly on her back. On top of this, they talked about him having a secret dungeon that he took the kids to. And despite all of this information,
You killed an innocent man.
this is after Freddy pins adult Nancy to a wall and licks her face, saying she was his favorite, by the way. We are never led to believe that he isn't a predator. So when they find pictures of Nancy as a child, it's not a reveal for sentient people watching the movie. It's just a useless, eye-roll-inducing plot point, which is frustrating because this is a serious subject matter, but the movie just uses it as a twist. And it's not even a twist, it exists just to exist.
Ooh, sounds like fun.
The horror is also just completely mute in this movie. The scariest thing is realizing you have to watch the rest of it after every scene. The surreal creepiness of the original is completely absent and instead replaced by telegraphed and boring visuals. They recreate a couple of the iconic scenes, like the wall scene, which actually just looks worse, even though we have 30 more years of technology. Tina's death is considerably more boring. Her name is Chris in this movie, but the character is mostly the same. They even do the body bag scene, but because of where it is in the film and the lack of the surreal feeling, the impact is almost non-existent. Combined with the sleeping scenes being extremely predictable, the tension is just not present in the movie. You could replace Freddy Krueger with any other character, and you probably wouldn't even notice. Again, this isn't Jackie Haley's fault, but the scenes with Freddy are just boring and way too edgy for my liking. The writers and director really just couldn't come close to the magic the original Freddy had. And while I mentioned that the micro-sleep idea is a fun addition, it just ends up being a little overused to the point to where it's gimmicky. It acts more so as a timer, but needing to sleep is already a timer. So after the first couple times, you're just tired of it. It also gets rid of the biggest rule in the franchise, where you have to sleep. This, in my opinion, while it starts fun, makes Freddy just feel like a generic monster, instead of the sleep demon the character is known for. Because they'll be out and about, and all of a sudden Freddy is there, because, oh, a micro-sleep moment. The movie really just doesn't handle staple moments well, in general actually. This is especially apparent in the confrontation where Nancy brings Freddy to the real world. The dream sequence that kicks it off is just a really weird SA-esque scene, and instead of being in Nancy's house, they do it in the weird dungeon he had. Like, Nancy just goes to sleep on his nasty-ass bed, dude. No preparation or anything. She just decides that they're going to confront the dream demon. It just feels like the script needed it to happen after the reveal. I really enjoyed Quentin as a character, but him being here just cheapens the experience that Nancy had. On top of that, we don't get the iconic death scene that happened to Johnny Depp's character, despite them playing basically the same role. All of this exasperates the issue with Nancy's character in the movie. All of her friends died, her father wasn't home, and her mom was drinking in order to ignore her problems she was experiencing. She was alone and had to fight back. It made the final confrontation meaningful, but in the remake, it just felt like, okay, it's time to fight Freddy now.
You really shouldn't fall asleep in class.
When Nancy saw Tina in the body bag, it is pretty soon after her death. It's a scene that it feels so surreal because it's jarring and we didn't know Nancy was dreaming. In this movie, it felt like they forgot to put it in, so they just micro-sleep the scene into existence at a completely random and meaningless point. The reason Jesse is blamed for Tina's death is because they were sleeping in the same room. In this movie, he's blamed because he triggers the alarm of her home when trying to leave after her death. A neighbor hears the alarm instantly, sees him even though it's the middle of the night, and calls the cops. On top of this, the neighbor just seems to know who he is because the cops go to Nancy's house and find him there. It removes the tragedy and believability from the scenario. It just feels like nothing is thought out or organic. They just had to find a way to get him into jail so the character can die in the cell. I saw this movie in theaters when I was like 11 or something and remember thinking it was good, but I've always heard it was bad throughout the last few years. And it's not like I didn't believe what people were saying about it, I just can't believe it is actually this bad. This isn't even about being snobby or pretentious about the franchise either. I'm not saying any of this as an authority of the series, it's just bad. If you enjoy this movie, I would love to know what about it resonates with you. And talking about Kyle Gallner's performance is cheating. You have to say something else. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe for more like it. I've been Collie, and I'll see you in the next one.